Hi there, this is Jen, and thanks so much for joining me today on the Possum Stamps YouTube channel. Today I have 3 cards using this big birthday stamp set. This one's called XL Birthday Greetings, and I thought I'd go ahead and do a minimal supply video using a bunch of stuff from my stash and these sentiment stamps. So it's basically cards with basically just sentiment stamps. And I'm going to start out on the first card with this stencil that is just a circle. You can easily make this on your own if you have a circle die, just by die cutting either acetate or even a piece of paper and using it as a stencil. And I'm grabbing some inks that I don't use often. These are Wendy Vecchi inks, and I'm just taking my blending brush and blending all of those inks through that stencil. And then for all of them, I am also going to swipe them off on a piece of plastic and wet that down and grab a little bit with my brush and add some splatter to that middle portion. And then I'll go ahead and remove that stencil and grab the sentiment that I'm going to be using for this card, which is I hope your birthday is full of love and laughter. This is a single stamp, and I'm going to break it up into 2 different sentiment strips on the card. And the first one, I am going to use a piece of black cardstock and do some white heat embossing. So I've gone ahead and I prepped that with my anti-static bag, and I'm just going to take some all over sticky notes and mask off the area I don't want to stamp right away. And then I'm taking my watermark ink, and I'll go ahead and ink up that stamp, remove that sticky note, and then stamp up the sentiment. And then I'm going to take some white embossing powder, and I did get a little bit, even though I used my anti-static bag, I did get a little bit of embossing powder where it didn't want it, so I just took an old a paintbrush and wiped off as much of that as I could. And then I'll go ahead and stamp the second portion of the stamp, which is the bigger portion. So that means I'm going to mask off the area that I just stamped. And this one I'm going to just stamp up in some Versa Fine Black ink. And then again, I'll remove that sticky note and go ahead and stamp that. And I do go ahead and add some clear embossing powder to this, just because it takes VersaFine a bit to dry, and I quite often will put my hands in it and mess it up, and so I prefer to go ahead and cover it and basically seal it with that clear embossing powder. And then I have taken 2 square dies from my stash and created an open square, and then grabbed these sentiments. And I have added a little bit of foam to the back of that square, and so also to the back of the portion of the sentiment that is hanging off the square, so it is even. And then I'm just going to add a few enamel dots, a silver bow, and then I will take a little bit of glue and add it to the center of that bow, and then attach that enamel heart. And that's going to finish off the first card. I love the sentiments in the stamp set because they're really big and can work really well just holding a card on its own. For my second card, I am using some Distress Oxides, and I am just going to take my dauber and basically make little circles. So the dauber that I'm using is a domed dauber, so it's a foam kind of domed dauber. It's not the flat Tim Holtz ones, but you could definitely use those as well. I think this makes really nice circles, really something easy to do. I am just randomly adding some of the different colors. So I started out with 3 colors, and then I wanted to add a little bit more of brightness, and so I grabbed the picked raspberry and added that as well. And then for this card, I'm going to go ahead and add a big sentiment right in the center. So I'll go ahead and stamp that up with VersaFine Black. And I'm going to use the stamp that says, "Hope your day is the best day ever." And so I've stamped that up and added some clear embossing powder. And then I'm grabbing a die from my stash, and so that creates a frame as well as that centerpiece. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere the frame to my card panel. And then I'm going to pop up the centerpiece with a little bit of foam. But before I do that, I went ahead and I grabbed some glue and added a little bit of glitter, kind of to act as the like highlight on the balloons, I guess. And you can't really see it too well, but it adds a little bit of sparkle to the card. And added some gems to this one, and that's going to finish off this one. Another really quick and easy card to create. And then for the last card, I am using some leftover card panels that maybe when I made them, I didn't like them, or I decided not to use them for whatever reason. And so I'm just going through that stack and trying to pick out some that coordinate well together as far as colors go. This would be a great card for using paper scraps, and if not paper scraps, then just grabbing some pattern paper or other card panels maybe that you have kept that you can go ahead and use up. I've already stamped the sentiment on the card so that I can get the layout correct with these strips. I did not measure the strips. They're probably about 1/4 of an inch wide, I would say. I just went ahead and kind of eyeballed it, and then I'm going to do a dry layout first and then adhere all of these down with some liquid adhesive. And since I cannot cut straight, I will go ahead and put this in my my guillotine cutter and cut those edges off to get a nice clean edge all around the card. And then with the remaining strips, I'm going to go ahead and do a dry layout again and just place those where I think I want them, and then take the liquid adhesive and go ahead and permanently adhere those down. And then once I have that done, I went ahead and I pulled out another kind of piece of scrap paper that I had, a silver kind of glitter piece of paper, and it fit perfectly across the card. And so I added a little bit of foam to it and added that underneath the sentiment that says, "May all your wishes come true." And then I'm going to grab this possum sequin mix called Mint Chip. And sometimes when I do sequins, I add them, and then sometimes I just sprinkle them on there, and wherever they fall, I go ahead and adhere them there. So I went ahead and added those sequins, and then I took a little bit of black ink and added just a little bit of splatter. I had a really thin brush for this, and so it made really small a splatter. And that is it for my cards today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. We would love if you would subscribe to the Possum Stamps YouTube channel and catch all of the fun and informative tutorials from the design team members. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.